Hello everybody, and welcome back to the second episode in my Roblox how-to series on everything you need to know about how to make Roblox games. In the previous episode, we talked about how to make this part change colors and anchor, and whether it was anchored or not, and its transparency and all that kind of stuff with a script. Well, this time we're going to talk about variables. Variables, we can connect them back to this. So, remember how in the last episode, every single time we wanted to reference the part, we were having to write game.workspace.part, game.workspace.part, every single time we wanted to reference it. Well, that would get annoying if you have to do stuff with the part a lot. So there's actually a better way to reference the parts like this, or literally anything that you have inside of the game, and that's with variables. So essentially what a variable does is it allows you to assign a word to a certain thing. So we could assign the word, I don't know, monkey, right? We could assign the word monkey to game.workspace.part. So instead of having to write game.workspace.part, we would instead just have to write monkey. Right? And the way that you make variables, I'm gonna make a line at the top. When you make variables, usually you want to put them up at the top of the script so that everything below it can use it. Because one little thing about scripting that you might not know if you're a beginner is that with if you make a variable up here, then everything down here can use it. But if you make a variable down here and then you try and use that same variable up here at the top, it's not gonna know what you're talking about, because scripts run line by line down from the top. So essentially, it'll process this line before it processes the line with your variable in it. So it won't know what the heck you're talking about when you say monkey. So the way that you make a variable is you have to use the keyword local. So you're going to write local, and then right here is going to be the name of your variable. Let's just call it for now my variable, or we can call it part, just to make things simple so we know what we're talking about. And then you have to write an equal sign, and then after the equal sign is what you're setting part to. When you write part, you have to set the equal sign, and then you reference it right here. So we're going to reference game.workspace.part when we type part. So there we go. That's our variable setup right there. So now instead of having to write game.workspace.part every single time we want to reference it, we can just now write part, because it'll just know what we're talking about, since this is the same thing as this. So then we can change this one as well. Part.color, and part.anchored, and it'll do the exact same thing if we run the game. I mean, oops, the part was the wrong color. So if it's white to start with, it should turn red when we run the game. Yeah, there we go. Just a little goof up that I made. So, yeah, that's how you make variables, and this can be applied to a ton of different things. And now we can get into some other variables that you might want to, or I mean, not variables, properties. Some other properties you might want to know about when it comes to modifying the properties of a part. So we can reference part, and then there's this one right here, position. This one can be very important. Like, let's say you have a part all the way over here, and then a player over here steps on a square and you want that part to appear right in front of the player or something like that. That's just an example. The way that you do that is with the dot position property. Now the dot position property, when you write it, it won't smoothly move it over to the player. It'll just instantly snap it over. So smoothly moving it over is a totally different process. So like last time, I said when you're writing a variable and it gives you the suggestions, it tells you what you need to use. And in this case, it's called a vector3. So part.position equals vector3, and then like color3, write vector3 dot new, and then parentheses. So if you're familiar with how coordinates work, if you aren't, I'll briefly run down through it. So with a coordinate system, I'll briefly run down how this works. This is the x-axis, this is the z-axis, and this is the y-axis. So if you want to move it to a certain position, you can actually do this. So if you have it over here and you want it to be exactly right here, what you can do to know the position of this is you can go to the part's properties and you can look up position, and it gives you the position right here. So then you can hit Control C and then Control V into the parentheses and the vector3. So if we move this part all the way back over here to the spawn point and then we hit run, it should be over there. Yeah, see? It moved from over there and then it moved to right there because we used vector3 to move its position. Another useful one, which also uses vector3, is size. You can probably guess what size does. It just this. And it works the same. It works kind of the same with the X, Y, and Z axis, where the red right here is X, the green is the Y, and the blue is the Z. All that kind of stuff. So if I want to change it to be this big, like that, when we run the game, we can look up its size, and then we can hit Control C, and we can write equals vector3 dot new, and then put it right here, and boom. So if we change this back to a smaller size, something like a little cube, and then we move it back over to the spawn point, if we hit run, it should be over here, and it should be bigger, like that. And keep in mind that it scales from the origin here, so that's why it's in the ground, so it scales outwards from the center. So yeah, I think that's basically it. There's a ton of other properties that you can mess around with as well, like material. That one can just change the material of the part, as it says, like to metal, and all that kind of stuff. So if we click on it and we go to material, it's metal. Doesn't look much different, but yeah, it is metal. So you can play around with a ton of different properties. You can look at them in the properties tab to see what they do, and then you can try and script them on the scripts that we've been working with to see how they translate to text. And yeah, I think that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed, and episode 3 will be about if statements.